You aren't failing because of willpower. You're failing because of your goals. Most people stop their habits the moment they succeed, halting their progress forever. Today, we escape the finish line fallacy. It's time to build an identity that makes your transformation inevitable.
How can you change your life? In Atomic Habits, James Clear argues that the key lies in your habits, the automatic behaviors that make up more than half of what you do every day. Clear contends that implementing the right habits will drastically improve your life, but to do so, you must understand how habits work and how to change yours. In this guide, you'll discover why habits matter and the 3 mindsets you can use to create them. You'll then learn how habits form and the 4 keys to changing yours. Finally, you'll learn how to continue improving habits you've implemented. Along the way, we'll examine how other psychologists and experts approach habit formation, and we'll explore how Clear's theories either align with or differ from theirs. New section: Small adjustments lead to massive transformations. Clear explains that implementing atomic habits, or small improvements in behavior, changes your life because behaviors compound. That is, they build on each other to create more and more changes. Performing one good behavior leads to another, then another, and soon you've transformed your life. Note: Clear focuses on how continuing the same behavior compounds. Saying one nice thing to your spouse won't massively impact your relationship, but doing so every day will. In The Power of Habit, productivity expert Charles Duhigg adds that different habits can likewise compound upon each other. Changing one core habit can trigger a chain reaction that encourages you to change other habits. Clear identifies 3 levels of habits: goal-driven, system-driven, and identity-driven habits. Goal-driven habits. Clear explains that a goal-driven habit is a behavior you do in order to achieve a specific goal. This is the most common way people try to change their behavior. For example, you might choose to study 2 extra hours each day in order to ace a specific test. Note: What kinds of goals should you shoot for? In Principles, Life and Work, billionaire Ray Dalio recommends that you be audacious. If you know with certainty you can achieve a goal, then you're not aiming high enough. System-driven habits. Clear contends that system-driven habits are those that focus on the systems or processes that will get you to your goal, instead of focusing on the goal itself. For example, developing a study routine is a system-driven habit because it focuses on the process of studying rather than the goal of acing a specific test or course. Note: Like Clear, Indistractable author Nir Eyal suggests that some people fail to develop habits because they fail to focus on the processes. Eyal adds to the idea by arguing that you can only form a mindless habit by repeating processes that require effort, but that some people don't put in this effort because they mistakenly think habits should be easy from the beginning. Identity-driven habits. Clear explains that identity-driven habits are behaviors we perform because they match our beliefs about who we are. In other words, our identity. For example, if you believe you're a good student, you have a study routine because that's what good students do. Note: Like Clear, motivational speaker Tony Robbins also argues in Awaken the Giant Within that your identity dictates your behavior. But Robbins' definition of identity is broader than Clear's. He argues that your identity also depends on factors like whether you define yourself by your past, present, or future. How to change your habits. Start with your identity. Now that you know the types of habits, which ones should you try to implement? For long-lasting behavior change, Clear recommends that you create identity-driven habits. Clear explains that this strategy is unique because most of us try to change our behavior by building goal-driven habits. However, goal-driven habits don't create long-term change because once you meet your goal, you stop performing the behavior. As Clear explains, if you adapt your actions to serve one finite purpose, your actions also become finite. For example, say you ace the test for which you've spent 2 extra hours every day studying. Since you've achieved your goal, you'll stop this behavior because there's no reason to keep studying. But since you stop studying, you never develop the long-term habits you need to improve your overall academic performance. Note: letting goals drive your habits may also leave you vulnerable to the arrival fallacy, where you mistakenly think you'll be happy as long as you achieve your goals. In reality, achieving the goal may bring temporary happiness, but that happiness will quickly fade, driving you to chase a different goal that you think will bring you happiness in a never-ending cycle. Further, if you constantly change your goals, you'll constantly stop and start different habits to support them too, and therefore won't develop long-term habits that can truly enhance your life. Instead of focusing on goal-driven habits, Clear recommends creating identity-driven habits because these, in turn, will dictate the system and goal-driven habits you choose. Clear contends that the beliefs of the person you want to be dictate what systems you implement. Identity-driven habits help you decide what game to play, process-driven habits teach you how to play the game, and goal-driven habits help you win the game. So you need to start with the desired identity to find the right habits that lead to the right results. In other words, you need to create identity-driven habits. According to Clear, creating identity-driven habits works because by behaving like the person you want to be, you gather evidence that you are that person, and eventually you believe that you are that person. Once you believe you're that person, you'll perform the habits of that person because it's who you are. You no longer have to convince yourself to do the habit. You do the habit easily because it's an expression of your identity. For example, you might determine that someone who aces their next test must be conscientious. You decide that a conscientious person doesn't just develop a good study routine, but they also get 8 hours of sleep so they're alert in class. So you do too. Over time, these habits lead to acing your tests, but you continue them even after you meet your goal. This is because you've gathered enough evidence to believe that you're a conscientious person. You now perform these habits because you identify as a conscientious person, not because you want to ace your tests. Why believing you can change is essential to building habits. In order to build identity-driven habits that will determine your system, and goal-driven habits in turn, you must believe that it's possible to change your identity. Otherwise, you won't see the point in embodying the behaviors of your desired identity. But what if you don't believe you can change? In Mindset, psychology researcher Charles Duhigg explains that people who don't believe they can change have a fixed mindset. They believe their abilities are unchangeable. The solution is to develop a growth mindset, or a belief that you can change and improve your abilities. Clear contends that you can develop a growth mindset by developing identity-driven habits. By repeatedly behaving like the person you want to be, you prove to yourself that it's possible to change. But there are several other ways to develop a growth mindset too, like assessing what triggers your fixed mindset so you can reframe your thoughts appropriately.
Real change isn't about reaching a finish line, it's about changing who you are. Focus on your identity and make every small habit a vote for the person you want to become. But how does the brain actually build these loops? In the next chapter, we deconstruct the 4 stages of habit formation and reveal the hidden emotional trigger that drives everything you do. Subscribe to follow this full series. Like if this helped you start your journey, and comment below with one habit you're starting today. The next chapter is waiting for you, right here.